Hello, CIS150AB. Here we go. Let's go through lesson 5. This is the first app project, and you'll notice that there's no folder in your downloaded files. That's because you're going to be creating your own app, and it will make a folder for you to zip up and work on. So let's follow through this tutorial here. So this is the introduction or intro to app development with Swift by Apple, lesson 5, and we're going to make an app that displays a photo. Piece of cake, you got it. Unfortunately, the instructions in the book are not similar to what is going on in Xcode, the new version. So there's a couple places where you'd get caught up. And that's what this tutorial is definitely for, because I have another video that you might have seen with doing the same thing that's in the old version of Xcode. Let's do it in this version of Xcode. All right, so I'm going to cruise through this. It says you're going to build an app. That's a photo. All right, we're going to launch Xcode. So Xcode, I'm going to scroll down here so you can see. Xcode's the icon down here. We're going to click on that. It's going to launch this screen here. And now we're going to get started with a new Xcode project. We're going to click on the Xcode project here. And we're going to start with a single view app. Make sure iOS is selected in single view app. Click next. Give the project a name. I'm going to call this photo app. And I have a team. I don't think you need a team here, but if you do have an ability to select something, select it there, or select none. Put something in the organizational identifier. Typically, this is the URL of your company backwards. So it's like com dot, or edu.mesa.cc for me. It could be com dot something for you. And then you leave the name of the app off the end of it, because you'll see the bundle identifier will include this name at the end of the URL. This is just to give you a unique URL, or I'm sorry, a unique identifier for the App Store. Here's an important selection. You might see Objective-C here. Make sure it's selected at Swift. And then the user interface, make sure it is not Swift UI, make sure it's Storyboard. Swift UI is their new fancy way of doing things. I'm working on an app in Swift UI, but that is brand spanking new, and that's not what we're teaching here. It's very different. It's all code and no interface builder. So no drag and drop, all coding. So, and down here below, you can leave all these unchecked. Now it's going to ask you for a place to put this. I'm just going to throw it on the desktop for now. You can have this checked to create a Git repository if you like, or not if you don't want. We'll get more into that later in the next class. Git is just a way of version controlling your software development, and also for collaborating with other people on software. Okay. Here we go. This is Xcode, the Xcode interface. Let me slide this window up now so you can see a little more of it. Now, don't get too overwhelmed with the Xcode interface. It's a bit daunting, but as I got windows and windows. But let me just run through it really super fast, because this might be the first time you're seeing Xcode, right? I have a whole video on introducing you how to do Xcode, or introducing you to the software of Xcode. But let's just take a look briefly at this. Okay, these are your files that go together to make your app. So all these files added together create your app. They're Swift files. That's the programming. Like if you click around in here, it'll preview it in this window over here. And then there's also something called a storyboard. That's like a visual representation of your app. And then there's also these assets, and assets would be like images and whatnot. So you drag images and stuff into your assets. The launch screen is the first thing that happens when well, not the first thing that happens, but the first screen that is presented to the user. So while your app is loading, it might show a screen. Okay, enough with that. Let's take a look at the instructions. We did all this. See how it says universal, devices universal? I don't think that that's a selection anymore. Okay, go ahead and create the thing. It's going to show you, let me scroll this up here so I can see it still. So it wants to show you the play button up here, and this is to run the simulator. If you don't have anything selected here, then go ahead and make a selection. I've deleted a lot of my simulators because they take up a lot of space on my computer, and I'm making a lot of videos, and I'm running out of space. But you'll see like a whole range of iPhone, iPad, all those simulators here. Go ahead and select one of the simulators and click the play button. You can also do Command R, which will build and run. Same thing. And now it's going to compile your app, put everything together, and run the simulator on your computer. So congratulations, you've now made your first app for the iPhone. It doesn't really do anything. It's just going to be a white screen with no buttons and no functionality, but it's an app. You could submit it to the App Store right now, and Apple would reject it, but they'd reject it because it doesn't do anything, and they want to see that your stuff does something. If the simulator starts to run and it pauses, you're like, what's going on? It's still working on it, and when it's done compiling, it'll push itself to the front of the screen. But if you're impatient, then you can, you'll see at the bottom, there's a little new icon there. This icon is the simulator now, and you could click on that and it bring it to the front of the screen. We didn't have to. See, there it is. It's popping up there. There's the simulator. And in fact, I think we're done. I think it's working. So if you need to resize the simulator, you can grab the corners of it. And so I'm going to click back here again and hit the stop button. That'll stop the simulator from running in the background. And let's take a look at our instructions. Okay, it might ask to enable developer mode. All right, I kind of showed your way around here at the toolbar, the editor, the navigator. There's also this side panel which gives you more utilities and whatnot. Yeah, I should probably show you this too. Okay, let's go back here. So let's say you're working on your app. Let's click on the storyboard here, and I'm making a selection here. See, there's new options that pop up on this side to interact with the background. For instance, you give the background a different color. So this is like a tree of what's going on in your app. You know, like there's a view controller, and sometimes you need more space to work with in here. And so you can hide these side panels like that. Hide or show them. So I'm going to bring them back like that. The console will show itself when it's needed. So if you print something to console, it'll slide up. So I can slide that down for now. And another important button is this plus sign here. I think in the instructions, in the older version of Xcode, the buttons and whatnot, the objects you add would be down below here, or they keep moving this button around. But basically, this is an important button that lets you add things. So for instance, if you want to add something, you could type like a button in, and you could drag a button onto there and let go. I think for this lesson, I think you drag a UI view. So I'm going to type in, image view. I think for this class, for this lesson, you use an image view. So I'm going to type in image, and it'll pull up the image view there. Let's just drag that in there and see. I think that's all you got to do for this one. But let's take a look. This goes through a bunch of different buttons that are up there. This probably doesn't even make any sense to you because I don't think these buttons exist in the new version. Property lists, asset files. Okay, yeah. There's a lot of files that go into making an app is what they're saying. They all do different things. Edit the storyboard. Okay. Choose the color of the background. I actually showed you that. So Let me show you how to do it again because it's part of the thing. So select up here, and let's see here. Actually, you can click in the view here. So clicking on the background here, and you see this little, if you select this down arrow thing with the line through it, then you can choose a different color for the background. It did say then to add an image view, and so how I did that was I clicked this plus sign, I typed in image, and then I just dragged it in. So if you haven't done that already, go for it, do that. Okay, open the navigator area, select the assets, drag in the image file. Which image file? Did it tell you what image? Before you start, you'll need a photo or an image. It can be fun to use Photo Booth to take a selfie, or you can use something you already have. All right, I'm pretty sure I have like a screenshot or something I can use. So what they're saying in this section is over here, click Assets. And now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of minimize our screen a little bit. I'm going to give myself a little more room by sliding that out of the way. And then I'm going to find an image over here. I don't know what this is. Let's just drag one of these images in. Okay. I don't know what that is. It looks cool though. And now that you've dragged the image in, it will be referenced by this name over here. And you'll see this name is ridiculous, so I'm gonna rename this. If you double click on it like a couple times, you should be able to rename it. I'm gonna call this pattern, or I'll just call it cool pattern. Okay. And now if we go back in the storyboard, I'm gonna make this a little bigger again, bring out this side panel with this button here. And if you go back in the storyboard and you click on your image here, now you should be able to select that new image if you use the drop down here. Cool pattern. Boom. Okay. I don't know how big they want us to make this cool pattern, but I'm going to resize it a little bit. I'm going to stretch this out. I kind of like it to fill the whole screen, honestly, so I'm going to get rid of this button. That wasn't part of the assignment, I don't think. And then I'm going to stretch this so it reaches all the edges. I'm actually going to do one extra step here that you'll eventually have to learn about, which is adding some constraints to it. So depending on the device that you've got, if you have an iPad or a small iPhone, the sizing might be different. You know, so like I want to make sure that it stretches to the edge of the screen for all devices. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. I'm sorry, click on this one that looks like a little square with skis, and I'm going to lock it to all of the edges by just selecting that red dot there, or those red brackets, and that just like latches it onto the edges of the screen. Add those constraints, and then one last thing is I'd like it to not preserve the aspect. I just want it to fill the whole thing. So I'm going to do there's scale to fill, so that'll kind of stretch it out like that, or there's aspect fill, which will kind of preserve the aspect ratio but stretch it out. So I'm going to do aspect fill because I think that looks cool. All right, what else do we got? Let's look at the book. I think that's it, but we'll see. Add the image. Now, why do you want to delete a view? Go ahead and skip this. I don't know what the heck that's about. Why would you want to delete the view? Because sometimes if you delete the view, you have nowhere to put the image. Yep, we did this. And the summary. All right, well, it doesn't say, but maybe it did say and I missed it, but I'd like to build and run this app to see if it's working. That's what I always like to do after I make a change. I'm going to build and run by hitting the play button or hitting Command R. The second time you build and run, it shouldn't take quite as long as the first time. And let's see, there's my, there's my splash screen. And now I've got this beautiful app. And if you hold down Command and the arrow key, it'll rotate. Now you see I've got some safe area stuff that I've got to deal with. See, they don't want Apple doesn't want your view to be behind this photo thingy, and so that's called the safe area. And you can adjust whether or not it preserves the safe area or not. Personally, what I think I would do in this case is I would probably leave it like that for now anyways, and I would just change my background color to black or something that's less annoying. Now you see I'm trying to click on the background and I can't get to the background color, but you can always click over here to really kind of get behind objects that you're trying to click on. So I'm going to choose black color there. And that way when we build and run it, it won't be that obnoxious yellow color on the sides. So hopefully this tutorial has helped you out with this new version of Xcode. Let's see, what version of Xcode am I running? I got 11.2 here. You might have 11.4 or 11.3. It should all be very, very, very similar in the 11 dot series. All right. Now, oh wait, one last thing. You're taking CIS150AB. I'm going to close this out, and you don't have to save. It's always every time. Well, you do have to save, but every time you build and run, it automatically saves. So if you build and run, it's going to automatically save. Otherwise, you could go into File and Save. But here's the folder that we made, right? Here's the folder, and you see it's got all this stuff in it. Do not just zip up this Xcode project file and send it to me. Zip the whole thing up, this whole thing. So you want to right-click, compress it, and that'll make a nice zip. Zip this and send this to me. If you send me just this file here, I can't. It doesn't work. It won't compile. It doesn't have all the stuff that goes together to make your app. And don't just zip up this file. Zip up pretty much everything, which means this whole folder. Okay. Hopefully this tutorial has helped you. I will catch you on the flip side.